Well, to my surprise, ever since I started doing these hot take videos, one of the most requested has been Hellraiser. So I figured it's time. It's time to open this box and see what's inside.
We stopped at a light and saw him walking in that field behind the Lost River Drive-In. Julie said he was so creepy.
Hey, what's up everybody? Nick here, and today I want to give you guys some Hellraiser Hot Takes. Now, if you're not familiar with my opinion on the Hellraiser franchise, you're in for a doozy, because I absolutely love Hellraiser. I have waxed poetic about this series many times on my channel over the years, and I have even gone as far as to say that I think Hellraiser could have a case for being on my Mount Rushmore. I think it's that good, and I think a lot of people think about the bad, they don't really remember how great some of this franchise is. Now, with that being the case, I've got quite a few hot takes with Hellraiser. Some may not seem totally hot, you may absolutely agree, while others may seem a little overboard, but that is the point with these hot takes, isn't it? I'm going to give you guys 7 in this video. Now, I just want you guys to know these are just my opinions. I am not saying I'm right, and arguing back and forth about opinions is a waste of everybody's time. So my first hot take with the Hellraiser franchise is that I think Hellbound, Hellraiser 2 is superior to the original film. Now, for some, this is blasphemy. A lot of people hold the original Hellraiser up in very high regard, and I do too. But I have always been of the belief that just because you were first doesn't mean you're necessarily best. That's not a knock on Hellraiser. I don't really think there's anything about that movie that I would change. If anything, maybe you give a little bit more time to Ashley Lawrence, because I don't really think she comes into her own as Kirsty Cotton until Hellraiser 2. She's fine in the first one, but she doesn't get a ton to do. However, Hellbound has everything the first one had, but it also expands the world and realizes things that the first film just truly couldn't. The fact that we get to see inside the labyrinth a little bit, that we get to see Leviathan, we get to see Dr. Channard's transformation into this insanely creative Cenobite design. And yes, he's super over the top, but I love that. It's almost like a Harryhausen effect. I don't know, it's just something about that really has grabbed me from the first time I saw it. I think this movie is beautiful. Now, if you made this today, I'm sure some of the effects would probably look better, but I don't think they necessarily age poorly. I also think some of the scariest stuff in Hellraiser takes place in Hellbound. First, being the moment where Kirsty believes she sees her dad's skinless body with blood on the wall writing, "I am in hell, help me." That is something I always think of when I think of Hellraiser, and it is insanely effective. But also, the scene where the patient cuts himself up on the bed because he believes he sees bugs crawling in and out of his skin, still to this day when I watch that, it's just really uncomfortable. That's a super visceral moment in this franchise and probably one of the most effective. Look, Hellbound has everything the first movie has. It has the same characters turning in just as good, if not better, performances. You get more to do with your lead character here, and you get to realize more of this world. I truly think that Hellbound Hellraiser 2 is the best film in this franchise and one of my favorite 80s horror films, period. My next hot take is that Hellraiser Bloodline is one of the best in the franchise. And I think that people really write this movie off because they know that it takes place in space. If you guys haven't seen Bloodline or you haven't seen it in a long time, I'm here to tell you that is not at all an accurate description of Hellraiser Bloodline. Only about 20% of it takes place in space. The rest of it is a period piece and modern day. And all of that stuff is fantastic. You get Adam Scott in here, and he is just another one in the long line of big name actors that would start their careers in little lesser known horror films, but he's actually pretty good in it. Valentina Vargas is absolutely to die for in this movie, and I love Angelique. I love the dynamic between her and Pinhead. I love some of the effects in this movie. I love a lot of the kills. I love some of these new Cenobite designs we get, like with the twins or the dogs. There's a lot to love about this. And you get not Meryl Streep in this movie. I know, right? She pops up in another horror film. So if someone wants to totally write off Hellraiser Bloodline because a small portion of it takes place in space, they're missing out. Because this movie is genuinely great, and I'm tired of people not saying so. Now, this next one, some of you guys are probably going to say is not all that hot of a take. But actually, in my time on YouTube, I've come to find that it surprisingly is. And that is that Hellraiser Revelations is one of the worst movies ever made. Now, granted, I mean one of the worst movies I've ever seen. To some of you, that may seem like a no-brainer. You might be going, well, yeah, everybody hates this movie. Well, I've actually had many conversations on YouTube with people that are like, oh yeah, it's not good, but it's definitely not one of the worst movies I've ever seen. No, I'm not going to pretend like this isn't. This movie is genuine sewer water. It is gutter trash. It is absolutely terrible. It was made solely just so they did not lose the rights. Dimension wanted to pump something out. They filmed it in 3 weeks. It had a budget of a couple $100,000, and it looks like it. This is an abomination, a cinematic travesty, one of the worst pieces of shit I've ever seen. It gets absolutely nothing right. The effects are terrible. The acting is garbage. I cannot stand this movie, and I genuinely struggle when anybody tells me that it's not one of the worst things they've seen, because this thing made me want to gouge my eyes out with rusty spoons. I will never watch it again, I will never own it again, and I am now dumber and more depressed for having sat through this movie just one time in my life. So for my next hot take, we're going to turn it around and get a little more positive here, and that is that Hellraiser Deader is actually underrated. Now, if you think about Hellraiser, you probably think about how most of the series is straight-to-video films, and a lot of them do not have a good reputation. I'm here to tell you, though, that there are a few things in some of those movies that are actually worthwhile, and I would even say that Hellraiser Deader is entirely worthwhile. This was a script that was sitting around Dimension called Deader that got repurposed as a Hellraiser film. So the final act of this movie, where you actually do get a lot of the Hellraiser put into it, kind of falls flat for me and feels very forced. But about 75 to 80% of this movie is actually a pretty unique original mystery. Like, I dig this movie. I like Kari Wurr in this movie. I actually quite dig the look of this movie. I like the tone. I actually dig this story and think it's quite intriguing. And by the time you get the answers at the end, they don't make all that much sense because it tries to be a Hellraiser movie, but everything else is actually pretty solid. So we've talked about this in other videos before, where you can come away saying like, oh, it was actually a good movie, just not a good so-and-so movie. And I feel that way about Deader. But even with it being a Hellraiser movie technically and having that kind of lackluster third act, I still say that it's underrated, and I definitely think it's worth a watch. And then following up that hot take, we've got another one fresh from the direct-to-video shelves. And that is Hellraiser Hellworld is actually a lot of fun. Now, I won't say this movie's underrated, because I do feel there's a lot bad about this movie. There's a lot that went wrong here. But I'd be lying if I said that this movie wasn't a good time, because it absolutely is. Look, you get Lance Henriksen in this film. You get a young Henry Cavill in this movie. You get Doug Bradley back as Pinhead. So already there's some cachet to it for me. You also have this movie taking place in this giant house with like a Hellraiser party going on. It's like a video game world. It's kind of weird. You have to watch it to get it. But like, I dig the vibe. I dig the aesthetic. I actually love the setting of this house. And for the first time, and pretty much the only time in the Hellraiser franchise, Pinhead is like a slasher. And that could be a good or a bad thing, depending on who you are. That's not what I want from Pinhead, but when we're now 8 movies in, and we have firmly been in the grasp of direct-to-video world for years now, I think it was actually kind of a fun and interesting what-if direction to go with Hellraiser. Now, I'll never ever forgive the fact that Doug Bradley's last line on screen as Pinhead is truly laughably bad, but I walk away from this movie always having a good time. So I'll never claim that it's good, but I will claim that it's a hell of a lot of fun. Now, my next hot take is that Hellraiser 2022 is one of the greatest reboots we've ever seen. Now, some of you guys might be thinking at first, oh, well, saying this movie's good isn't a hot take. Maybe not. But going as far as I am here, I think is a hot take. A lot of people had minor gripes with this film, which I always find interesting. We get a big budget, really faithful adaptation of a story we love that is modernized, that really had care and love put into it. And rather than appreciating that, we have to nitpick little things around the edges. That always bothers me, because we could either have this, or we could have a 27th straight-to-video Hellraiser movie with a budget of $200,000. I don't know what people want here, it just seems like you want to complain, but I digress. Hellraiser 2022 is on the level of like Evil Dead 2013 to me, where I feel like it takes a lot of what those first few movies did so well and brings it into a fresh new take. Everything you know and love about Hellraiser is present in this movie, while also kind of going in different directions and expanding the mythology here, and I really dig it. Another reason to praise this movie is that Doug Bradley was being recast, and that is huge shoes to fill. And Jamie Clayton does fantastic as the Hell Priest in this movie. I genuinely love the design, I love the performance, and I love that we don't get a ton of it. It is here and there, peppered throughout the movie, just enough for you to know that they're there. You get the return of iconic Cenobite designs and also get new original ones. You get some great effects in this movie. I love the score. There is so much to love about this. This is one of the better horror reboots I think we've ever seen, and it's a shame that we still don't have word on a sequel for this, which makes me worry that it's never going to happen. This should have gone to theaters, and I think 20th Century missed a huge opportunity with it. But regardless, even if you don't agree that it's one of the best we've ever gotten, I think most people agree that it's pretty good. My final hot take in this video is that the character of Pinhead, the Hell Priest, is as iconic as any other horror villain. When I think of Pinhead, I immediately think of Freddy Krueger. And what I mean by that is, I think they are on level playing field here. Now, some people are going to immediately push back on that and go, absolutely not. Freddy is way bigger. I'm not saying that Pinhead is as commercially successful as Freddy Krueger. What I'm saying is, I think that is my comparative because Doug Bradley, like Robert Englund, brings everything to this character. All of the personality, the incredible line delivery, the menace, the even funny moments, all of it. It is all there because of Doug Bradley. Now, it's an incredibly written character, don't get me wrong, but I genuinely struggle to find a character aside from Freddy that I would put on the same level. Pinhead is just incredible. It's an incredible design, it's an incredible performance, it's incredibly written, it's incredibly lit. Literally everything about this character is so regal and classy and important. Every time he shows up on screen, you feel it. There is weight to it, even in the middle movies in this franchise that are largely forgettable. And I would caution people to not base their opinion on this hot take solely on some of those straight-to-video movies. Because, yes, they exist, but I don't think that diminishes how iconic this character is. So I would honestly put Pinhead up there with the best of them. And if I'm doing a Mount Rushmore, he's on it. Alright, so those are just some of my hot takes in the Hellraiser franchise. Understand that this is one of my favorite horror series, and I will defend it until I'm dead. I think it is supremely underrated, and I think more and more people need to talk about and appreciate this franchise. But I want to know down below in the comment section what you guys think of these hot takes. Do you agree or do you disagree, and why? Please comment down below. I want to thank each and every one of you for watching the video. I want to ask you to leave a like on it, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. This is Nick at the Lost River Drive-In, and I'm going to finish opening this box because I'm pretty sure there's something cool inside.